Rabbi Say, welcome back to Yerushalmi Peah. Now we are in the article pages Daf Lamed Beis. Now the last thing we actually finished just before the tiny bit of the end of a sugya. So a couple of lines just to put you back in the picture. We spoke about where someone had metaltalin in one place, he's giving them as a gift. We spoke about a shchid marah, and is their land, can be makner, metaltalin together with land. And there was a story where someone had a rock, and he said, like, half of the rock I give to so-and-so with wine, half of the rock I give to so-and-so with oil. And the story came to the Chachamim, and they accepted what he said. Then we pushed that away and said, wait a minute, it's a shchid marah here, that's why he was accepted. And usually you needed a proper shtar. All right? So we're up to here then. The Amalei, to Ramona said to Kamania, but that story there was Rebbe Lezer and Shani. Now, is there any difference between a shchibra and a bari? There's no difference, because shchibra and Rebbe Lezer kabari to Rabbanan. As we said, the shchibra and Rebbe Lezer is like a bari according to Rabbanan. The Rebbe Lezer holds whether bari or whether he's ill, not ill. Nechasim, which like land, you can acquire with kesher shtar chazaka. Rebbe Lezer makes no distinction between shchibra or a healthy person with kinyanim. And if the kinyan helped for a shchid marah, then it will help for a healthy person as well. Okay, so that was just the end of that previous sugya. So we're up to here now. So it's Lamed Beis, yeah. So Taman Tanina, we've learned now you can acquire metaltalin together with land, right? Even if it's not in one place. So Taman Tanina, Rabbi Kiva, Mekaka Kosher Chaim Peah Bikurim. So you can, any tiny bit of land is enough to acquire Peah, to Chayav Peah and Bikurim. You can acquire Nachasim which don't have a Chayes, like Kesher Shtar Chazaka. Karka Kosher, a tiny bit of land, Ma'utav, what good is it? You can't put movable things on a tiny bit of land. And the Mishnah says you can acquire metaltalin. So you see, movable things can be acquired together with land, even if they're not actually on the land. Rabbi Tanya said, Tifto, you can talk about a case. There was one stalk of my goddess to boy, a little diamond on the stalk. So you can't prove that metaltalin can be acquired even if they're not on the land. Maybe they are on the land. It's this tiny jewel in this stalk. Okay. So a person who's giving away everything and a shchibra, and he's left a tiny bit of land behind. The matana is a valid gift even if he gets better. Let's see. What is the shchibra that we're talking about? A person who's dying. The illness didn't come suddenly. It got worse bit by bit. Right? If it got suddenly worse until he's dangerously ill, then even if he leaves a tiny bit of land for himself, the matana will go back to him if he gets better, because obviously he was worried about death. Now the Gemara brings the brisa now that makes a distinction about Bikur Chayim. Derech Haaretz, the way of the land, when people get ill bit by bit, okay, the family goes straight away and visit. People further away, they go after 3 days. But if it's a case that he was like very ill from the very beginning, then everyone goes straight away. Dalma, Rabbi say the word Dalma means a story. And what does it stand for? Dalema. There is something to say. Rav Chuna, Rav Pinchas, Rav Chizkiah, Salkun, Bevakud, Rav Yosef, Vas Yemen. They went to visit Rav Yosef after 3 days. He was ill. He said, why do you wait? You want to follow the brisa that you're not family, so you wait up till after 3 days, but you're all friends. Friends can visit even within 3 days. Okay, now we bring from the Mishnah, we add various words to explain. So if the shchibra leaves a tiny bit of land for himself, then if it gets better, then the gift is a valid gift. But afilu, now the correct gear is to here, afilu hivri, even if he got better, by him leaving a bit of land, he thinks he'll get better, therefore the matana stands even if he gets better. If he gave away every bit of land, and then then he does not, the gift doesn't stand. If he gets vuhushivri when he gets better, obviously he gave everything away, he thought he's not getting better, and since he got better, therefore the gift is void. Rabbi Boravuna, B'Shem Rab, also divrei shchibra, they did the words of a shchibra as mechalek everything by heart, Kerbari, like a healthy person, shekasa v'nasam, like he wrote a shtar and gave as a gift. And this is providing he died from this illness which he was ill when he gave away these gifts. If he got better, then the matana is not chal. Okay, why? Because a manas shchibra is batel, right? If he gets better, it's batel, as we said. Now the words of Shchibra Achal, when he defines, he delineates the borders of the field that he's giving over. And he said, Tnu Sada Pliny, give so-and-so field, which I've defined it. Which one we're talking about? Pliny to so-and-so. If he just said, give a field from my fields, without saying which one, without saying the borders, then the gift is not a valid gift. Okay? Now the Gemara asks, if he defines it, if he said, Tnu Chatzi Sada Pliny, if he says half, give half of that field to so-and-so to that person. But Chatzi Sada Pliny, and the second half of that field, Pliny to someone else, without saying which half to give which person. Now what are you going to say? Is it Kamish Husayim? It's as if he's defined the borders, because we know which field we're talking about, and therefore it should be valid. Or maybe, no, he has to say so-and-so shares on the north, so-and-so shares on the south. Very good question. We have no answer. Now, if he leaves a bit of nechasim for himself, the matanas chal, even if he gets better, because we say when he gave everything, he knew he'd get better, and he was still prepared to give everything, and left a bit for himself. Rabbi Bina v'Shem Rabbi Yirmiyah, shia metaltalin, if he left movable things for himself, but not land, lo yasa klum, as if he's not left anything. Because you can't feed yourself on metaltalin for a period of time. What's he going to live on? Therefore, obviously, he gave the gift because he thought he's not getting better. Right? But it's only when he leaves aside land, we say, right, he's going to sow there, he'll get a living from it for a period of time. So then we say, right, he thought he was going to get better, therefore the matanas chal, even if he gets better. Now, come and see. Wait a minute. So he leaves a tiny bit of land, you're telling me he thought he's going to get better, and he's giving everything away. Yeah, he can live off that. Now, a tiny bit of land? What can he live off? A tiny bit of land. Right? Tiny bit. But if he left diamonds and jewels, you're going to tell me he can't live off that. He can't live off that. Surely he'll have much more to live off these big jewels than a tiny bit of land. So how can that be? So a very good question. The Gemara moves on to another question first. The Gemara says now, a shchibra who gives everything to others, and in the Shtar Tzabah Kasaba, he wrote in the document that he's giving a gift through a kinyan. Now what's the din? Now is it like a matnas shchibra, and if he gets better it will be void? Or maybe now it's like a matnas bari, which will not get cancelled. Maybe it's like a healthy person's, because they sort of wrote down through a Maaseh Kinyan, right? This svara is where he does a Maaseh Kinyan and he wrote it in the guf of the will. So if he's writing the Kinyan, he obviously wants to strengthen the gift, right, and make it like a proper gift, maybe, right? Even if he didn't leave himself anything. If he just did, he says here, if he just did a Maaseh Kinyan without writing it, then it's like a matnas shchibra. So okay, so let's see. This person knows that really he could give away his gifts even with just speech. Right? He doesn't have to do a Maaseh Kinyan. So why bother write a whole Kinyan there? He's making it into a healthy person's gift, so it will be valid even if he gets better. Now back to the earlier din, where we said if he leaves a tiny bit of land, matana is Chaim, because he can live off it. Tiny bit of land. Shia avodim. So well, what about if he left servants for himself? Is that got a din like land or not? Right? They are considered like land min Torah, but that's as far as kinyonim and shvua. But things which depend on people, like shibud lebalchov, it could be they've got a din like metaltalin, because they're not so secure from geneva and aveda, you see? Like land. It's not as secure as land. So what about avodim? Dana Rabbi Yehuda Bar Pazi Bar Delaya, he says, this is a classic, Rabbi Yisrael. If you came only for this line today, it's Kedai to come. This sort of line you only get in Yerushalmi. Right, Gershon, this is a clip for you, right? Oh. You only get this sort of line in Yerushalmi. Look at this line. Tana Rabbi Yehuda Bar Pazi Bar Delaya. Rabbi Yehuda Bar Pazi taught something. He taught a brisa about this. Rabbi said, what did he teach? We don't know what he taught, but we will still mention it in the Yerushalmi that he taught a brisa about it. You don't get that in Bavli, Rabbi Isai. You get that in Yerushalmi in a couple of places in Shas. So there you are. That's classic for you. We don't know what he taught, We know something about this. We've no idea what, but we will still mention it. There we go. The question therefore remains without an answer. Okay. If a person, a shchibara, writes all the nechasim with a tzabah, let's say to one person, and then he wrote a new will lazeh to another person. Rabbi, so what's happening? Giving everything in a will to one person, he changed his mind and he writes a new will to someone else. What do we do now? Rav said he can't go back from what he's given to the first one. The first will is valid. Second one is void. In English law, the second one cancels the first one, doesn't it? Rav Abba Bar Chuna and Rav Yochanan they both said, he can go back and give everything to the second one. So the first one is batel. Now, we bring a situation where the machlekes will be nagea for truma. Let's see. Hey chavida. So let's see. What we're going to do the following. Let's say there was a servant. Rabbi Arishon, and to the shchimara, the first master, the hasheni, Cohen. So the first master of the Eved is a Cohen. The one he wants to give it to, the Eved, the first will, is a Cohen. But Shlishi, Yisrael. The second one he's giving to is Yisrael now. Can this servant eat truma or not? Al-Dati, the Rav, according to Rav, it should be Yachal Lechal B'Truma. The servant can eat truma because everything goes to the first receiver. First receiver was a Cohen. Dati, the Rav Abba Bar Huna, Rav Yochanan, Eini Yachal Lechal B'Truma. They said no, he can't eat truma because they hold he goes to the second person who was donated to, and the second person was Yisrael. But Akol Moedim, Eved Avishim Haya Rabbi Rishon Yisrael. If the Shchimara was Yisrael, the one who's giving the Eved away, Einav with Truma, he can't eat Truma because Shema Yavri, maybe the Shchimara will get better and he'll go back to belonging to the Shchimara. So therefore he doesn't eat Truma in such a case. Okay? Rabbi Yosi Ribun, B'Shem Rav Chuna, Masnisa Messiah, the following Bryce supports from Abba Bar Huna and Rabbi Yochanan, they both said he goes to the Rabbi Bar Huna, they said he goes, you can change your mind, right, and give it to the second one, yeah. We got support for this. Someone healthy. He writes a will with a nusach of a dying person. Or a shchimara who's writing a shtar of a gift. He can go back on it. So a bori who writes a daitiki can go back because the daitiki really is not chal. Daitiki, this special expression, was for a dying person. And a healthy person who used it is not valid. And a shchimra can go back, although he wrote a nusach of a giving as a gift of a healthy person, but the gift is a matna shchimra, and he can go back on it. Right? Now, when we say bori shekasa daitiki chayza, but a healthy person writes his lashon, he can go back on it. La'aidu bori, I mean he's still healthy when he goes back from his gift. Similarly, shchimra shekasa matana, he gives a gift away, chayza, but he can go back on it. He's still a dying person when he changes his mind. So you see, a shchimra can go back on his gift, even if he's not got better from his illness, he can change the gift and decide to give it to someone else. What is this Dr. Shah Daitiki? What is it? It's a will of a shchimra where they write, Da tehei li lios v'lamad. This gift will be to me if I merit to get better from the illness. If the person dies, it should go to the person mentioned in the will. So the way the Yerushalmi learns, Daitiki, you're opening it up to what? Da tehei li. Yeah, that's the lashon it's opening up to. Now, this is Tosefta. The Bavli's version, da tehei lemeikam v'lios. So I mean, here we've got da tehei lios v'lamoid. Right, the Bavli's version, da tehei lemeikam, with a kuf in it, lemeikam v'lios. Is the word daitiki, da tehei lemeikam v'lios. It's going on all that expression. Okay. Ezeu matana. What's the matana of a healthy person, which is like a shchimara, that he doesn't get peras until after the one who gives it dies? On the other hand, it's like a mandas bari, that the one who gives it can't go back from it. If they wrote, if everything's given as a gift from now, right? If he adds la'achamisa, then we say his intention is to give it to Makabel now, the guf now, and he can't go back on it. But it's not being makna, the giving over the use of the land until after he dies. So while he's alive, but the land still remains in his possession. Okay, so this Matnas Bari, the Makabel won't get the fruit yet. It's a Matnas Bari, you can't go back on it if they wrote this Lashon here. Let's see it again. So then he can't really go back on giving this gift. Okay. If in the Shtar of the Matnas Shchibra it says Mehayoim, he's giving it from today. Right, now the question is, can a Shchibra go back on a gift? And if he writes the Lashon Mehayoim, do we say a Shchibra can go back on it according to Rabbi Yochanan? But we say, look, he wrote in the Shtar, it's Chal while he's alive, so it's a Matnas Bari, a healthy person's gift. Maybe he can't go back on it. Rabbi said, we've got a story for you. The sister of Gurion writes everything to her younger brother, who is Rav Gurion, when she was very ill. And she had a shtar, and it was written that the gift should be from today. The older brother goes along and says, why are you giving it to him? Give it to me. He wants her to go back on the gift and give it to him. So she did that. The story came before Rav Imi. He said, Rav Yochanan, that a Shchibra who writes everything to one person, then writes someone else, can go back from his gift. So the first will is batel, the second will is valid. Rav Zira, Lo B'Rav Yochanan. But Rav Yochanan not agree. They write the lashon from today. You can't go back on that. And he said, Shchimra, you're right. When he uses the lashon Mahayoim, you can't go back on it. Also Rabbi, and he said b'shem Rabbi Yochanan, you're right. You can't go back if you use the lashon Hayom. But Anha Ravimi remembered that that's what Rabbi Yochanan said. And he changed the psak in the case. So first he said give it to the older brother, and now he said no. You got to give it to the younger brother. Okay.
Shouldn't the Kohen do some sort of kinyan?
What? Which one?
Shouldn't when you gift somebody, does the Kohen have to do some sort of kinyan, like bar, shich, some sort of to be Kohen?
Shchimra doesn't need a kinyan.
But in a bari would?
Matnas Bari usually would have a kinyan, but for matana, maybe if you're being makna or something, matana. So here, the Shchimra definitely doesn't need one.
What you say?
Yeah. It's like it's a takana that things are given, so he shouldn't be worried about it. Yeah. A person's writing everything to his children in a will, because of Ishna, and he writes to his wife a tiny bit of land, and she accepts that tiny bit of land, she's lost the ksuva. Rav says, he's using her to give over everything to his children in the nechosim. So he's using her. Now, what does that mean? He made it a kinyan to be mezakeh and nechosim to his children. Even though matan is chal here without a masa kinyan, we're talking about matnas shchibra, right, which doesn't need a kinyan. But here he wants to do a kinyan to strengthen the gift. But the kinyan wasn't done with the children; it was done through the wife, who was a shliach to be mezakeh for the children. So what happens now? So Rav said, he uses her to create the kinyan. No, he's just giving it out in front of her, and she accepts it. She doesn't object. Rabbi Yosef, he said, the din of the Mishnah is a special kula that we're chiyav kesuva, that we're happy and she's accepting this. So even if she wasn't there when he gives it out, as long as he said, take this land for your kesuva, that's good enough. When he divides it out and she doesn't object, that's when the din of the Mishnah applies, and that's it. She loses the ksuva, she gets this tiny piece of land. Right, with a normal creditor, we don't say it's meichel and his shibud, unless he actually clearly says so. Right, there are other kulas with the ksuva as well. Okay. This is again a leniency with ksuva. The reason Chanina is with ksuva. Not only in the ksuva where it says the amount the Chachamim fixed, the ksuva is money on Masayim, 100 or 200 zuz, this din of the Mishnah, and our fidu ksuva shel elaf dinar. Even the same thing if the ksuva was worth a lot more, we still say mekule ksuva shanu. It's a leniency in ksuva. Kulas, special kula miyuchad of dinei ksuva is shaykh the fact that you're nice from the chil, even though it's a bit more than the normal amount. By the way, you might not be aware. Of course, there's famous machlokes whether ksuva is deraisa or drabanon, right? You'll notice in the Ashkenazi ksuvas, the lashon is the chazi lechi midaraisa. It's fitting for you from the Torah. Ashkenazim, when they give their wife a ksuva, they say it's a Torah din. In the Sephardic ksuvas, it says the chazi lechi. It's fitting for you. We don't say it's a Torah din. And the Yerushalmi seems to imply that it's not a deraisa din. Yerushalmi ksuvas. So the Yerushalmi seems to hold that ksuva is more drabanan than deraisa. But anyway, I digress. So we're talking about a case where we got a special din with a tiny piece of land with shichrur for a servant. Let's see. So someone is giving everything to his servant. All my nechasim to so-and-so my servant. The servant goes free. If the master kept a tiny bit of land for himself, the servant does not go free. Rav Shimon over, he says, no, the servant goes free. Until the master says, everything goes to my servant except when one tiny percentage of him that the master kept for himself, then the servant stays a servant. Otherwise, the servant goes free. Rabbi Yasser Shem Roloza, Shia Metaltalin, if he left movable things for himself, La Yasa Klub. Nothing. The servant doesn't go free. He didn't say that this metaltalin is kept for himself. And I say the metaltalin is the servant himself. So you left metaltalin, the servant does not go free because we say he meant the servant. Even though it's metaltalin here, we're saying he meant the servant. Usually Ebed has got din like land. But people call an Ebed metaltalin. Because Matthias, he's not connected to the ground. And you can move him from place to place. So it could be the servant is metaltalin. Okay? So that is something, that's more sort of Yerushalmi version of opinion. Rabbi Yasser, Rav Shimon said, he's ben chayrin until he says everything except the percentage. Because Shabbat Master, when the story came from Rabbi Yossi Amma, he said, there's wonderful words. You should kiss Rav Shimon, who said such wonderful words. Adon Allah. Okay. Hapeah. Carry on, Rabbi say. Hapeah niteres b'mechuber lekaka. It can be given from that which is connected to the ground. You leave peah when it's connected to the ground. You don't reap it, and the poor people come take for themselves. Now that is kidneys or other types of trees. But dalis, if it's like a big vine which is hanging on sticks or whatever on other trees, or a dekel, a date palm tree which is very tall and it's hard to climb and it's dangerous. Then Balabai is married. The owner of the field brings the grapes down. He does the climbing. We don't let the poor people do the climbing. Or the dates, he brings them down. And he divides it to the poor equally. Rav Shimon says, the same thing, he can divide up the various nuts as well, the walnuts, which again, they're smooth, it's hard to climb up to get them. So you got 99 out of 100 who are in the field. They say, you know what, general peah. They say, oh, just divide it up equally. That's general peah. Divide it up. But one says, no, first come, first served. Then we listen to him. That is the halacha. Normally, peah is whoever gets there gets it, right? You don't divide it up. But of a dalis of a dekel, when it's the tall trees, then ain't okay. Then it's the opposite. 99 say, we will climb up, we'll get it. And one says, no, divide it equally. We listen to him, that is the halacha. You see what it says? It says when you're cut, you're ripening in your field. The cutting in your field. We can't from here, we learn apparently tennis because we've got to be connected to the ground. I feel of a dalis of a dekel. Are you going to leave the pear when it's on the vines and the dates? No, from out the Kol Haloshon katsir, something's being cut. So this din is only with things which are like katsir of grain. Ma katsir meyuchad is unique. A child can get it like an adult. A poor person can reach it like a tall person, like a short ani. As opposed to the vines and the dates, the other people can't get to it. Okay? Yeah? You okay? Yeah? Okay. So they can't reach it. Therefore, we don't have this din. And the peah is nitin b'mechuba lekarka, right? The balabais has to climb down and divide it up. Okay? Right. And the truth is, he says here, even the vines, even a tall person can't reach it unless you go on a ladder, right? So, the truth is they're both equal in this fruit, because even a tall person needs a ladder. But still, some say it doesn't mean cotton and god. Some say it doesn't mean short and tall. It means weak and strong. A weak person can't climb on the ladder. It's dangerous. And also that's what someone said. Okay. Someone learned this din from the drasha, the following drasha. It says about Peah and Matanas Aniyim, you'll leave it. So therefore what? It's not on the balabais. He just leaves it. They'll do their cutting. Put it before them, like it is, like it's connected to the ground with all the stubble and everything. Tilta, the fenugreek, ba'amir, in its own stubble and so on, as it is connected to the ground. Samarim, b'mechabados, the dates in their leaves, they're called like brooms. They used to make brooms out of them. Yachal, you're going to tell me, you're going to leave Peah connected to the ground with these. Talmud lema aisam, no. Aisam is a meal, those you leave, not others. There's some types, you don't leave it, you have to cut it. Why choose which ones? The Torah says some you leave, some you don't. So you know what? The ones which are not dangerous, you leave. The ones which are dangerous, don't leave it, you divide it up. Now remember, the din mechuba always means, is it from the Torah? Yeah, we've had that before. Now mechuba, is this din that is up a date tree and he has to go and divide it? Is it like mechuba? He's like the word with a vav, yeah, mechuva. Is it a din from the Torah, or maybe it's only a drabanan din? In Tema, you're going to tell me mechuba is from the Torah. It should be lematam. He's gathered the fruit from the tree. He brings it down. It's din Torah. You can't give it. It's got to be talosh, given out when it's cut. So also calling it peah should be in talosh. You should only call it peah when it's been cut. In tema she'ena mechuba, if it's not from the Torah din, then Hashem Peah lemalam. He can call Peah on the fruit up above while it's still connected to the tree, because the main chiyuv is when it's connected to the tree. He'll give it to the poor. That's a takanas chachamim. So can he call it Peah? Is it when it's still connected to the tree or when it's down on the floor? You're going to tell me you call it Peah when it's up above. Then the costs of bringing it down from the balabais to hire a ladder, whatever it is, to hire a rope, that's on the poor people to pay. Because the Shem Peah is while it's up in the tree, and it's money of the poor, they'll pay for the ladder. And he's done his mitzvah by calling it Peah up there, instead of Takoni, he brings it down. But in Tema Kodesh and Peah Lamatan, if you're going to tell me he's only calling it Peah down here, then I saw Mishal Balabayis. Then the Balabayis is the one who has to start paying for the ladder. Okay? Then the guy says, well, I feel the Tema Kodesh and Peah Lamalan. It could be you still call the name Peah up above, and still, it could be, they said, you know what? He has to pay for the ladder. We don't want the poor people climbing around. It's dangerous. Therefore, we put it on him, even if it's only Shem Peah above. Very good question. So we're not sure. So God doesn't actually answer the question. All the trees that Balabais brings the fruit and divides it to the poor. He says all the trees are like that. All trees are dangerous. Like the date palm. Rameir doesn't darshan the word kotzir, like we said in the first brisa, Dalis and Dekan, only those, because you can't. Rameir holds all the trees the balabais has to bring the fruit down. Rabbanan dashi kotzir. Rabbanan said no, kotzir, only these two types of trees he has to bring the fruit down, everything else they climb up themselves. Then the Gemara says no, kol dashi kotzir. Everyone learns the word kotzir. And they hold that trees was in danger, he has to climb up. And Rameir says, all trees are dangerous. Therefore, all trees. Rabbanan Amre, they said, no, there's only two types of trees which are dangerous, and therefore, those two types he has to bring down. Shimon said also with the nuts. Five brothers died with 5 nut trees where they were climbing up, and you see there's a danger like Shimon even with giving out nuts. Now, A balabais shakar shem peah. Okay. A balabais, we said peah is given when it's connected to the ground. Agreed? So balabais shakar shem peah, he give a name peah on produce which is connected to the ground. Bechila. And then he ended up cutting the whole lot. We apply on him the pasuk. He's been over love. He called it peah, but then he went and cut it. He shouldn't have cut it. He should have left it. He shouldn't have cut it. The Torah wanted peah to be mechuber to the ground. Right? Don't tell me he fulfilled his duty by calling it peah, because he should have left it. And like Harashem peah, if he never called it peah b'chila and he's gone and cut the whole thing, again, he's gone against what the Torah said. He should never have cut the whole thing. Although he didn't give it a name of peah yet, I'm afraid he shouldn't have cut the whole thing. Now, what about Dovis and Dekel, where he brings the fruit down from the trees and gives it to the poor? Hisnu benem. If all the poor people agreed that what? You know what? Don't divide up the dates. Right? You bring them down here, and we will take what we want. If they all agreed that, Afilu Kain Ein Shomen Lahem, it should be. We don't listen to them. No, he divides them up equally. Why? He might see, oh, that poor man is my family member. I'll make sure I go and give it. I'll throw it in his direction. How cheeky people can be, right? I'll throw it in his direction when he brings it down. And the other poor people look there and he throws it there. So the other poor people will lose out. They said, no, you have to divide it up. But Shmuel Bar Avud, he asked, Kila Esadeo, if he cut the whole field, Beisul, he didn't leave peah. Atama, you say, Chazra peah la'imrin. Now in this situation, the mitzvah's peah does come back, right? It goes into the bundles which have been cut, and he has to separate some of them for the poor. He has to give peah from what's been detached. So the question is, what about giving peah to the poor? Do we say, Afilu Kain, even so there's bundles lying around. Does he just leave it, or does he divide it? Does he divide it out from the same reason? He shouldn't throw it to his friend, or maybe not. Or maybe the main mitzvah is with talush, with the vines we say that. But here the main mitzvah pay is just leave it in the field. So even he's giving it detached, maybe he doesn't divide it up. Each one takes what they want. Very good question. I'm afraid I've got no answer. Okay, how are we doing? A few more minutes. Natal mixas hapeah. Right. Now, we spoke about peahs given that which is connected to the ground. All the poor people take for themselves. So what about cases where one ani wants to come a bit earlier, maybe other anayim? So let's see. Natal, so one of the poor people mixed us a peah, took some of the peah, the zara kalasha, he threw it on the rest of the peah which is connected to the ground in order to acquire it. Because he thought by throwing his stuff on it, he will acquire it. That does not help. That's not Masechet. It doesn't help. He falls on the peah to acquire it. Or he put his garment on it to acquire it. Other people, they can take it away from him. This is not a Masechet by falling on it, but by putting your garment on it. The same did with other dinim as well. Other matzanim, falling on it is not good enough. Right? So you can't just do it. They talk about here. I'm only at the poor man who's mahapich b'charora. Remember that from Bavli? He wants to get something from Hefka. He wants, let's say, the cake as the gift. Someone else comes and takes it. It's called a rosha. The poor man acquires it. You're trying to get something. If you're trying to acquire something, even though you've not yet acquired it, other people shouldn't take it. Right? That's what you find in Bavli. Like, Oni Mahavir Chara, he's waiting to get it. And you snatch it from him? So how are the other people allowed to take this peah? He's falling on it. He's putting his garment on it. How can the other people take it? So some say, with peah, it's not a case of Mahapich B'Charara or the other aniyim. The other aniyim are waiting to get this peah. But not him alone. Not him alone trying to get something. They're all trying to get it, right? He waits, I'll fall on it. I'll put my garment on it. That's not called Mahapech B'Charara, that it's his more than anyone else's. Some say the is of Oni Mahapech B'Charara is only with Mekach or Memka, where he's trying to get something through business dealings, and someone else takes it. The other person can go, he can find a similar example. Why should you get involved in this person's business? You deal with your own business, right? But something which is hefker, everyone can go and take it. Okay, so what we got here? The Brisa says, if he took some of the pay and he threw it on the rest, nothing. We put a fine on the ani who threw some of the pay on the rest, and he wanted it to be mevatel everyone else's rights. We take everything away, that which is cut and that which is not cut. We take everything away. We don't want him to do this, and it will end up causing arguments. Ad kadum, that's all very well, mazid, when he threw some of it intentionally. But what about filu shageg, when he accidentally threw it? Filu karichais, is it even if the ani threw like small bundles of crops on the pail that's connected? Are we going to take that away? But we say, look, they're more significant, more noticeable. Maybe we won't. Good question. We have no answer. You can acquire something which you find within 4 amas. It's close to you. You acquire it in the sense of hefka, right? Just like your courtyard would acquire it. Matam. Well, how do you know this? What's the source of this? Now we have a pasuk. Dovid HaMelech tells Shlomo HaMelech. Okay. Now this is the preparations that he prepared for the Beis Hamikdash. And what does Dovid HaMelech say? When I was poor, Hachinaisi the Beis Hashem I prepared for the Beis Hamikdash. Zav kikrim mea elef, tons of gold. The kesef elef alafim kikrim, tons of silver. Nanachoshes lebazei mishkal, and copper and iron. Kilarova, there's so much. And you will carry on. I got wood and stone. Now, if he had so much to be makdish to the Beis Hamikdash, what does he mean when he says, "When I was poor, I prepared it"? Why is he poor if he's preparing all this? This is great wealth. If you're going to tell me it wasn't his, well, how can he make it hektish? How can he give it to the Beis Hamikdash? You can't give something which is not yours. So we learn, something? It never came to him. He was makdish it from hefka, from his spoils of war. As soon as it went within 4 amas of him, and not yet gone into his semain, and you see that hefka within 4 amas, you can acquire it and you can make it hektish. And because after all, Rav Moshe boy, he asked, what are we talking about here? If within 4 amas of Dovid before he made it hektish, then Ashihu, he's rich, he's acquired it. How can he say he's poor? If it was outside 4 amas, it's not yet his, then how can he make it hektish? Make hektish something not yours? Now the way we explain the pasuk is, Magdish Rishon. Each bit that came, he made it hektish. Each time it came a tiny bit within 4 amas, he made it hektish. So he did acquire it, but he was never rich, because each time he acquired a tiny bit, he made it hektish. And that's where we see that 4 amas of a person can acquire something of hefka. Now Rav Avin pushes away this limud as far as 4 amas. Rav Avin said, really, you know something? He did acquire it before he made it hektish, and it was his. So Ma'abani, what does he mean when he said he was poor? He wasn't really poor. You cannot compare. There's no wealth in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu where everything is his. That means David mis'aneh. He fasted any meals he had, he fasted, and he didn't have the meal, he gave the money for the binyan Beis Hamikdash. But we learned in Masechet. This is a question about the one who says you can acquire Masechet within 4 amas. But we've learned, you see something fallen down, and you fall on it. Someone else comes and takes hold of it. The one who's holding it acquires it. The first one doesn't acquire it by falling on it. That's not Masechet. Second one who holds it, lifts it up. That's a Masechet. Now, if you acquire something Masechet within 4 amas, then the one who falls on it, why hasn't he acquired it? Said, he never said, when he fell on it, he never said, Yiskuli Abba Abba Shali, I want my 4 amas to acquire it. He never said it. Now, V'hatani, what we've learned, he fell on it. Perastani Salah, he put his garment, we take it away from him. Why is he not kind it with Kinyan 4 amas? Right? Amalei, he says, Shimon ben Lakish answered, that's also the same thing. It might have worked, but he never said that it should work, and that's why it doesn't work. You follow? That so because he never said it should work, it doesn't work. So they also answer this in Bavli, but they say, look, if 4 amas acquire, why does he have to say it? Why doesn't he acquire it even without saying it? So Bavli says, by throwing himself on it, it shows he wants to acquire it by falling on it, and not with the 4 amas. You follow? And since falling is not a kinyan, and the 4 amas he didn't want to use, therefore he doesn't acquire it. Yeah, but our Gemara's mashma in the Yerushalmi holds that it's a haven't been like the haven't been in the Bavli, that 4 amas don't acquire unless you actually say it. It's not what you intended, what you didn't intend. Our Yerushalmi seems to say you actually have to say it. But I'll tell you Reb Chia. Now, Reb Chia learned Shnayim Shohim is Kachin. Right, 2 people who are hitting each other. Ala Omer. Now, on the Omer of the Shikha, each one wants to take it. And one poor person comes along, and snatches it from them. Zachaba, he gets it. Because the 2 haven't yet done any Masa Kinyan. But if 4 amas are koina, then why doesn't the poor person who came first within 4 amas, why isn't he acquiring it? Amalei. So he answered back, it's talking about a case. Again, he never said, I want my 4 amas to work. And since he didn't have intention to acquire with 4 amas, it doesn't work. Okay? I think we can stop there. Unless, what do you think, Mendel?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can stop there. Okay. Yes.